Well, I think it's time for the party now to be serious about what it is we need to do, to be able to stand up for all of the people who really need a Labour government. And that means both being strong about our values and also being determined enough and strong enough to deliver them, to get a Labour government elected. We can't do that if we just lurch our narrow party to the left. Actually, we can't do that if we simply move a narrow party to the right either. We have got to be strong enough to be able to reach out.
You're in danger, though, of the party tearing itself apart.
And I think the party has got to come together now, because in the end, look, if we think about 5-year-olds now who've already grown up under a Conservative government, seen the Sure Starts and the children's centres cut back, we're really going to say to them, we want them to spend their entire childhood under a Conservative government, the way in which young people's opportunities are being so hard hit. If we want to deliver for those children, we've got to be strong enough to get a Labour government elected. We won't do that by just being a party of protest.
But the party is in danger of tearing itself apart. As I said, this latest poll is not comfortable reading, apart from perhaps for Jeremy Corbyn. You are in third place. Is there an argument for you dropping out so that one of the other candidates could give him a run for his money?
Well, I think in the end that all the other candidates, I think, are still being too narrow. I think I'm really keen for us to be reaching out to, not just across the party, which we have got to be able to hold together, but also to be able to reach out across the country. That is the only way, in the end, we can deliver a Labour government that can stand up for working people across the country and build the stronger economy and the fairer, less divided Britain. I think that is what we have got to do. You know, there's a sort of, you can't just be angry about the world with a Labour Party. We've actually got to change the world, and that means being able to be true to both our values and deliver them in practice. Because I think what's happening at the moment is there's a bit of a false choice going on. People thinking you've either got to stand up for Labour values but be unelectable, or alternatively ditch Labour values, swallow what the Tories are saying in order to get back into government. That's a false choice. Neither of those approaches will work for Labour. We've got to be able to both stand up for our values and be determined enough to put them into practice.
Do we need a choice of 4 candidates for that, though? If you don't want to step aside, perhaps one of your colleagues should.
Well, in the end, that's for them to decide. That'll be in the end as well for party members to decide when they cast their votes. But I think, look, this is about being really serious about the task ahead of us, because it is a really tough task ahead of us to be able to stand up for Labour values, but also make sure that we can deliver them for people. You know, you've got the woman in my constituency who's got huge arrears on the bedroom tax. We're letting her down if we don't get a Labour government elected so that we can abolish the bedroom tax. The young people who are not getting those fantastic jobs of the future that we want them to have, we're letting them down if we're not strong enough to get a Labour government elected to stand up for them and make sure they get those fantastic chances for the future.
Chatted to one of your former cabinet buddies, Ms Beckett, just a short time ago. As you know, she was one of the people that nominated Jeremy Corbyn when he's scrabbling around for people to nominate him. She says that on reflection she regrets that. Should she?
Well, look, I think that's for her to decide, and, you know, we're having this debate right across the party. But I think we must not just simply lurch our party to the left. That will not be the answer. We can't go back to the 1980s. I remember growing up in the 1980s. We did a lot of shouting and a lot of protesting from the sidelines, went on a lot of marches, banged a lot of drums, but actually we didn't change anything. And we can't do that again. We have to be able to change Britain.
I was already working on Sky News in the 1980s, I have to say, and I remember Mr Blair coming up through the ranks. He was certainly a firm favourite for the party at that time. How much does his intervention help or hinder today?
Well, I think we can't go back to the 1980s, but we also can't rerun the 1997 election. Look, that was a great successful campaign for us, but the world's moved on now. We obviously lost votes to the SNP and to UKIP, as well as to the Tories. We have to reach out and rebuild in all directions. And, of course, times have changed. The economy's moved on, technology's moved on. There's different challenges for the future. So we can't do a rerun of past elections and past platforms, whether that's 1997 or 2015. None of that will work. We've got to have an optimistic vision for 2020 and beyond, how we deliver the high-tech jobs of the future, but also support the childcare revolution so that all families can be part of it. And I think end child poverty in our lifetime. That is what Labour should be campaigning to do.
In other words, Blair should button it.
I think, look, this is a big debate about the future of our party. Everybody's going to be part of that. But, of course, there's not going to be a simple answer from the past that we can follow. Actually, this has got to be about Labour's future. That is what I want to do. I'm not doing this in order to be something. I'm doing this because I want us to do something.
I heard you in the hustings with Andrew Neil. I know you've got another one tonight. I heard you, it was recorded, but it was played out on Sunday. And I also heard Andy Burnham saying that he wouldn't, on balance, have Jeremy Corbyn as his shadow chancellor. His people said subsequently he was just joking. Not sure about that. Would you have him as part of your shadow cabinet?
I'm avoiding having any discussions about a shadow cabinet when it presumes that an election that hasn't happened in the Labour Party. But look, Jeremy's politics are very different to mine, so I think it would be a rather tough ask, I'm afraid.
What does that mean? They're very different to yours, and it would be a tough ask. You wouldn't have him in your shadow cabinet, is what you're saying, isn't it?
For example, I think that the debt and the deficit have to come down. I don't think you can just wish them away. You've got to have a responsible approach. I don't think, by the way, you do that the way the Tories are doing it, and George Osborne's plan now for a 40% cut to our public services. That is ideological. That is not responsible.
We're not talking about the Tories today, though. Would you potentially serve in Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet if he won?
Again, I think I'm not preempting a vote that hasn't happened. I think unlikely we will reach that situation, but I'm not going to get drawn into, because you'll then ask me a whole series of other questions about different candidates and so on. And I think, look, this is for the Labour Party now to decide about who the leader should be, rather than getting into speculation about shadow cabinets.
We're almost out of time, and you've tiptoed through the raindrops beautifully, as you always do. I suppose my final question would be, this process has taken too long, hasn't it?
Well, the timetable was decided by the party. There's some people saying it's too short, some people saying it's too long. We've got to get on with it, but we do have to face there is a very serious choice for the Labour Party now, and I think it's really important that the Labour Party doesn't just choose someone who makes us feel good about the party or about ourselves. It's actually about choosing somebody who can be strong enough to stand up to the Tories now and set out an alternative vision, strong enough to be an alternative Labour Prime Minister from the start. That's what I want to do.
Ed must be laughing up his sleeve at all this going on.
My husband, Ed, you mean?
Indeed so.
He's been at the cricket on Sunday, so he's been having a nice, relaxing time and doing other kinds of interviews.
I forgot there were two Eds in your life. I must remember that for next time. It's good to talk to you as always.